The stars shone like distant jewels against the blackness of space. Among them moved a ship unlike any made by human hands. The vessel was sleek and dark, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Inside, Zalthrak prepared for his next hunt. Zalthrak was the most feared bounty hunter in 7 star systems. His tall, muscular body was covered in black scales that shimmered with hints of blue and purple in the dim light of his ship. 6 arms moved with deadly grace as he checked his weapons and equipment. Each of his previous hunts had ended the same way, with him adding a new trophy to his collection. He called his ship the Silent Talon. Every wall held mementos from past hunts: claws, fangs, strange alien technology, and preserved body parts. Each item reminded him of another successful kill. In 300 years of hunting, no target had ever escaped him once he accepted a contract. "Computer, display the new target information," Zalthrak said, his voice deep and raspy. The ship's screen lit up with an image of a human male. The data beside the picture identified him as Jack Miller, a cargo pilot who worked the shipping routes between Earth colonies. Zalthrak clicked his upper mandibles together in what passed for a laugh among his kind. Humans were such fragile creatures. Soft skin, no natural weapons, weak muscles compared to most spacefaring species. They had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago, still newcomers to the stars. "This will be simple," he muttered as he studied the humans. "Details. Computer, what is the bounty amount?" "3 times your standard fee," the computer replied in a smooth, emotionless voice. "Client stipulates complete removal with proof of elimination." Zalthrak paused. "Triple the usual payment? For a simple human cargo pilot?" That was unusual. "What is the reason for the contract?" he asked. "Target witnessed unauthorized activity on Vega Prime. Nature of activity classified by client, so the human had seen something he shouldn't have. That explained the high payment, but not why the client thought a human would be worth triple the standard fee. No matter. Credits were credits, and this would be an easy hunt. "Set course for the human's last known location," Zalthrak commanded. "Time to study my prey." The Silent Talon changed direction, its engines barely making a sound as it headed toward the mining colony on Vega Prime. For 2 weeks, Zalthrak watched Jack Miller from afar. He studied the human's daily routine, his contacts, his ship, and his habits. Zalthrak always learned everything about his targets before striking. It was why he never failed. But something about this human puzzled him. Jack Miller didn't move like other humans Zalthrak had observed. Most humans were predictable, following the same paths, talking to the same people. This one seemed always alert, always watching. He changed his routes daily, never ate at the same place twice, and checked his ship thoroughly before each flight. Perched on a rooftop across from the spaceport, Zalthrak used high-powered vision enhancers to watch Jack preparing his cargo ship, the Rusty Bucket. The ship was old but well-maintained, not the vessel of someone who had money but of someone who took care of what was important. The human moved with purpose, checking the outside of his ship with careful attention. He wasn't just looking for mechanical problems, he was looking for devices that shouldn't be there. This human expected trouble. Interesting that Zalthrak accessed public records on his wrist computer. Jack Miller, age 34, former Marine, veteran of 3 colonial conflicts, now an independent cargo hauler. Military training, combat experience. This wasn't just any human, this was a warrior. The hunter felt a small thrill. Perhaps this wouldn't be so simple after all. A trained human might provide some small challenge before the end. Jack Miller felt the familiar prickle at the back of his neck as he loaded the last crate onto his ship. Someone was watching him. He'd felt it for days. Now that subtle sense that had kept him alive through 3 wars. He didn't change his movement or give any sign he'd noticed. Instead, he continued his work while his eyes scanned the surroundings. The busy spaceport was full of aliens and humans moving cargo, fixing ships and going about their business. Nothing seemed out of place, but Jack trusted his instincts. Since witnessing that secret weapons test on the dark side of Vega Prime 3 weeks ago, he'd been waiting for trouble. He knew too much. had seen the Galactic Consolidated Industries logo on equipment that was clearly designed for biological warfare. That kind of knowledge got people killed. Jack finished securing the cargo and walked up the ramp into his ship. Once inside, he locked down the ship and ran a full systems check. Everything looked normal, but again, that feeling nagged at him. He noticed a small power fluctuation in the rear cargo hold. Could be nothing. The rusty bucket was an older model with plenty of quirks, but it could also be something else. Jack grabbed his hand scanner and pistol from beneath the pilot's seat. The scanner was military grade, not something a simple cargo pilot should own, but Jack had kept a few things from his Marine days, just in case. Moving quietly through his ship, Jack approached the cargo hold. The scanner showed nothing unusual, but the power readings were still off by a small margin. He punched in the door code and waited as the cargo hold door slid open with a hiss. The space was dark except for the blinking lights of the temperature controls. Crates were secured against the walls, just as he had left them. Jack stepped inside. Moving cautiously, he swept the scanner in a wide arc. There, a tiny device attached to one of the crates. It wasn't part of his equipment. Jack's heart beat faster, but his hands remained steady as he examined the device without touching it. It looked like a small transmitter, possibly a tracking device or something worse. Jack backed out of the cargo hold and sealed the door. He wasn't going to touch the device. That could trigger whatever it was designed to do. Instead, he would change his plans. He returned to the cockpit and began pre-flight checks as if nothing was wrong. If someone was watching, he wanted them to think he hadn't discovered their little gift. Instead of his planned route to Europa Station, he would make a detour to see an old friend who might be able to help him figure out who was hunting him. From his vantage point, Zalthrak watched the human ship prepare for departure. His tracking device was in place. No matter where Jack Miller went, the Silent Talon would follow. The hunt had begun, and Zalthrak felt a rare emotion: curiosity. Most prey followed predictable patterns of fear once they realized they were being hunted. They ran to friends, to authorities, or tried to hide. What would this human do? As the rusty bucket lifted off from the landing pad, Zalthrak returned to his own ship. He would give the human a head start before following. It made the hunt more interesting. What Zalthrak didn't realize, what no hunter in his long, successful career had ever taught him, was that humans were not just prey. For most of their history, they had been predators too. And unlike most species in the galaxy, they had evolved not as specialized hunters like Zalthrak, but as adaptable survivors who could think their way out of almost any danger. The Deadliest hunter in the galaxy had just made his first mistake. He had underestimated his target. The game was only beginning. Jack Miller's ship jumped out of hyperspace near a small trading outpost on the edge of the Orion sector. The outpost wasn't on any major shipping routes. It was the kind of place people went when they didn't want to be found. The rusty bucket docked at the farthest bay from the main terminal. Jack shut down the engines but left the power running to the ship's sensors. He hadn't touched the strange device in his cargo hold. He wanted whoever was tracking him to think he was unaware. Jack grabbed a small bag with essential supplies and his pistol. Before leaving the ship, he set up a small camera near the entry ramp, connected to his wrist device. If anyone tried to enter his ship while he was gone, he would know. The trading outpost was a maze of narrow corridors and small shops. Aliens of many species moved through the cramped spaces, trading goods and information. Jack walked with purpose, not making eye contact. Just another cargo pilot on business. He entered a small shop with a sign that read, Allen's Tech Supply. The inside was crammed with computer parts, sensor equipment, and tools. Behind the counter stood a heavy-set man with a thick beard and arms covered in faded tattoos. Jack Miller, the man said with a grin. Thought you were running cargo to Europa this month. Change of plans, Allen, Jack replied, glancing over his shoulder. Need your help with something? Private. Allen nodded and led Jack through a door behind the counter into a back room. The space was cleaner than the shop, with advanced equipment lining the walls. Allen locked the door behind them. Someone's hunting me, Jack said without preamble. Found a device on one of my cargo containers. Need to know what it is without letting them know I found it. Alan scratched his beard. Can you describe it? Jack pulled out his scanner and showed Alan the image he'd captured of the device. Alan whistled. Lo, that's high-end tracking tech. Military grade, but not human military, looks Vexarian to me. Jack felt his blood go cold. Vexarian? You sure? Pretty sure. They make the best hunting tech in the galaxy. If a Vexarian is after you, you've got serious trouble. Jack had heard stories about Vexarian hunters during his time in the Marines. They were legendary predators, evolved from apex hunters on a harsh world. They never gave up and they never failed. I need a way to feed it false information, Jack said. Make it report that I'm somewhere I'm not. Alan thought for a moment. I can rig something up, but it won't fool a Vexarian forever. They're smart. Doesn't need to be forever, just long enough for me to figure out who hired them and why. While Alan worked, Jack used the shop's secure terminal to access information about Vexarians. The screen displayed images of tall, scaled beings with multiple arms and eyes designed for hunting. Their history as a species was one of perfect predators becoming perfect hunters. One name kept appearing in recent reports. Zalthrak, known as the Void's Shadow. If this was who was hunting him, Jack was facing the deadliest hunter in the Galaxy. Zalthrak's ship hung in the shadow of an asteroid near the trading outpost. His tracking device showed the human ship was docked and stationary. The hunter was patient. He would wait and observe before making his move. He reviewed what he knew about Jack Miller. The human had gone directly to this remote outpost instead of his scheduled destination. That meant he suspected something. Perhaps he had detected the tracking device. If so, he was more aware than Zalthrak had anticipated. Through the advanced sensors on his ship, Zalthrak monitored the trading outpost's communication channels. Most were filled with mundane chatter, but one encrypted channel caught his attention. Someone was searching for information about Vexarians. The hunter's mandibles clicked in amusement. The human was researching his predator. Clever prey, Zalthrak murmured. But knowledge will not save you. He decided it was time to test this. Human skills. Not to kill, not yet. First, he would study how Jack Miller responded to pressure. The best hunts were those where the prey showed spirit before the end. Zalthrak activated his personal cloaking device, which bent light around his body, making him nearly invisible. He loaded several non-lethal weapons and left his ship, piloting a small shuttle toward the trading outpost. Jack returned to his ship with Alan's device, a signal interceptor that would catch the tracker's transmissions and delay them by an hour. It wasn't perfect, but it might give him some advantage. As he approached the rusty bucket, Jack checked his wrist device. The camera showed no one had approached his ship. Still, something felt wrong. That familiar prickle at the back of his neck was stronger than ever. Instead of walking directly to his ship, Jack circled around through a maintenance corridor. The narrow passage was poorly lit, but it gave him a different angle to approach from. He kept his hand near his pistol. When he reached a viewpoint where he could see his ship, Jack stopped and watched. Nothing seemed out of place. The docking bay was quiet except for the hum of equipment. No movement, no signs of disturbance. Too quiet. Jack drew his pistol and moved carefully toward his ship, staying close to the wall. When he was 20 feet away, he saw it. A slight shimmer in the air near his ship's ramp like heat waves on a hot day. But the docking bay was climate-controlled, a cloaking device. Someone was waiting for him. Jack didn't hesitate. He fired 3 shots at the shimmer, then dove behind a cargo loader as return fire hit the wall where he had been standing. The shots were not standard energy blasts, but some kind of stun projectiles that sparked against the metal wall. The hunter wasn't trying to kill him yet, just capture him. From his position, Jack couldn't see the shimmer anymore. The hunter was moving. Jack removed a small mirror from his pocket and carefully used it to check around the cargo loader. Nothing visible, but that didn't mean nothing was there. Jack remembered his Marine training. When facing a technologically superior enemy, change the battlefield. He looked up at the ceiling where fire suppression systems were installed. Without aiming directly at them, Jack fired several shots that hit the pipes running along the ceiling. Water sprayed down into the docking bay, and suddenly the shimmer became more visible as water droplets clung to an invisible form. The outline of a tall, multi-limbed figure could be seen moving toward the exit. Jack fired again, aiming for the legs. He heard a hiss of pain, and for a moment, the cloaking device flickered, revealing his hunter, a Vexarian, just as Alan had suspected. The alien was tall with black scales and 6 arms, 4 of which held weapons. The Vexarian fired back, and Jack felt something graze his arm. Immediately, his arm began to go numb. Some kind of toxin. He had to move. Rolling to his feet, Jack ran in a zigzag pattern toward his ship. More shots hit around him, but none connected. He reached the ramp and slapped the emergency close button as he dove inside. The ramp raised and sealed with a hiss. "Computer, emergency takeoff sequence," Jack shouted as he stumbled to the cockpit, his left arm hanging uselessly at his side. The rusty bucket's engines roared to life, and the ship shuddered as it broke free from the docking clamps without proper release procedures. Alarms blared from the trading outpost, but Jack ignored them as he piloted his ship away with one hand. As the outpost shrank behind him, Jack knew 2 things for certain. First, one of the most dangerous hunters in the galaxy was after him. And second, that hunter now knew that Jack Miller wasn't going to be easy prey. The numbness in his arm was spreading. Jack needed to find a safe place to treat the toxin and plan his next move. The hunter would not give up. This was just the beginning of a deadly game where only one of them would survive. The rusty bucket limped through space, one engine sputtering from the rushed escape. Jack sat in the pilot's chair, injecting himself with a universal antitoxin from his emergency medical kit. His left arm tingled painfully as feeling slowly returned. "Computer, run full system diagnostic," he ordered. He needed to know if the Vexarian had managed to place any new tracking devices on his ship. The computer's voice responded after a moment. "Minor damage to port engine. Life support. Functioning at 92%. Unknown device detected on outer hull, section C7. Jack cursed under his breath. The hunter had tagged his ship again, likely during their confrontation at the trading outpost. The hunter was thorough. Exactly what Jack would expect from a Vexarian. "Computer, set course for the Kelvin asteroid belt. Maximum speed." The asteroid belt would provide cover and make it harder for the hunter to track him visually. Jack needed time to think and plan. Running wouldn't work forever. Sooner or later, he would have to confront the hunter directly. As his ship changed course, Jack pulled up his old military contacts on the ship's secure communication system. He needed help, and there was only one person he trusted enough to call. The screen flickered, and a woman's face appeared. She had short gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Miller," she said without preamble. "You look terrible." "Good to see you too, Captain Carter," Jack replied. "I need help with a Vexarian problem." The woman's expression turned serious. "Vexarian? Who did you upset this time? Remember that cargo run to Vega Prime I told you about? I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Now the deadliest hunter in the galaxy is after me." Captain Susan Carter had been Jack's commanding officer during 2 colonial conflicts. She was now retired from active service but still had connections throughout the galaxy. "Description of the hunter?" she asked. "Black scales, 6 arms, high-end equipment, very professional. I think it might be the one they call the Void's Shadow." Carter's eyes widened slightly. "Zalthrak. You don't do anything halfway, do you?" "Miller? Can you help me?" Jack asked. "I'll send you coordinates to a secure location. And Miller, you'll need better weapons than that pea shooter you're carrying." The screen went dark. Jack checked the ship's computer and found the coordinates Captain Carter had sent. It was a small moon orbiting a gas giant in a nearby system. Uninhabited according to official records. But Jack knew the military maintained secret outposts in places that didn't officially exist. Zalthrak returned to the Silent Talon with a new respect for his prey. Few targets had ever detected him while he was cloaked, and fewer still had managed to wound him. The human had shown resourcefulness, using the environment to his advantage. The wound in his lower leg was minor, already healing thanks to Vexarian regenerative abilities. More concerning was the damage to his pride. The human had escaped during their first direct confrontation. Inside his ship, Zalthrak checked the signal from the new tracking device he had placed on the human's vessel. The rusty bucket was heading toward an asteroid belt, a common but effective tactic to break pursuit. "Computer, analyze the human's fighting style from our encounter," Zalthrak ordered. The ship's AI displayed a holographic recreation of the battle. Zalthrak watched carefully as the computer highlighted the human's movements and tactics. "Subject exhibits military combat training consistent with Earth Marine Corps protocols," the computer stated. "Reaction time 37% faster than average human baseline. Decision-making under pressure indicates extensive combat experience." Zalthrak clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. This human was a warrior, not a simple cargo pilot. Perhaps that explained the high bounty, but it still didn't explain what Jack Miller had witnessed that was worth triple the standard fee. The hunter decided to dig deeper. He accessed the Galactic Information Network through secure channels, searching for more details about Jack Miller's activities on Vega Prime before the bounty was placed. The search revealed that Jack had delivered cargo to a facility owned by Galactic Consolidated Industries, a powerful corporation with interests in weapons development. The manifest listed medical supplies, but there was a discrepancy in the weight records between departure and arrival. Interesting. The human might have discovered something during that delivery, something important enough for Galactic Consolidated to want him eliminated. Zalthrak smiled, a predatory expression that showed rows of sharp teeth. He enjoyed hunting prey that presented a challenge. And now he had a better understanding of his target's capabilities and possible motivations. He set course to follow the human's ship. The hunt continued. Jack's ship drifted silently among the asteroids, power reduced to minimum levels to avoid detection. The moon Captain Carter had directed him to was still 6 hours away at normal speed, but Jack wasn't taking any chances. He needed to remove the tracking device first. He put on his spacesuit and checked the oxygen levels. 90 minutes of air, more than enough for what he needed to do. Jack entered the airlock and cycled it open, tethering himself to the ship with a safety line. Pushing off gently, he floated along the hull, using handholds to guide himself to section C7 where the computer had detected the unknown device. There it was, a small metallic disc barely larger than a coin attached to the hull. The Vexarian tracking technology was impressive. The device seemed to have merged partially with the ship's metal, making it difficult to simply pull off. Jack took out a portable scanner from his suit pocket and examined the device more closely. It wasn't just a passive tracker. It was collecting data on the ship's systems, power usage, and possibly even internal sensors. The hunter was gathering intelligence while tracking him. With careful movements, Jack attached a small electronic device of his own to the tracker, the signal interceptor Alan had given him. Then, using a thin tool, he adjusted the interceptor's settings to not just delay the signal, but to feed false information about the ship's power levels and life support. Let the hunter think his prey was more vulnerable than he actually was. Jack was done running. It was time to set a trap of his own. Once back inside the ship, Jack checked the time. 4.5 hours until he reached the coordinates. He used the time to review everything he knew about Vexarian hunters. Their vision was excellent, especially in low light. They could see into spectrums humans couldn't. Their hearing was acute. They had natural armor in their scales. They could regenerate minor injuries quickly. They were stronger and faster than humans. But they had weaknesses too. Their metabolism ran hot. They needed to eat frequently when active. Their regeneration required energy. And most importantly, they were overconfident. Centuries of being the galaxy's perfect predators had made them believe they were unbeatable. Jack knew better. In his years as a Marine, he had learned that no enemy was unbeatable. You just had to find the right leverage. The moon was barren and cratered with no atmosphere. Jack landed the rusty bucket in a deep crater that shielded it from orbital scans. A small camouflaged entrance in the crater wall led to an underground facility. Captain Carter met him at the entrance, accompanied by 2 armed guards. She had aged since he'd last seen her, but her eyes were still sharp and alert. "You look like hell, Miller," she said, leading him inside. "Been a rough few days," Jack replied. "Thanks for this." The facility was larger inside than it appeared, with corridors leading to various rooms filled with equipment and weapons. This was one of the military's black sites, places that didn't officially exist where rules didn't apply. "I've got something that might help you with your Vexarian problem," Carter said, leading him to a secure room. Inside was a display case, containing what looked like a modified rifle. Prototype weapon designed specifically to penetrate Vexarian scale armor. Never went into production because of the peace treaty. Jack picked up the weapon. It was heavier than standard military rifles, but well balanced. "Will it kill him?" "If you hit the right spot." "But Miller, are you sure that's what you want? Killing a hunter like Zalthrak will make you a target for every other Vexarian in the sector. They take that kind of thing personally." Jack thought for a moment. "I need to know who hired him first. Then I'll decide." Carter nodded. "Smart. There's a neural disruptor attachment that can temporarily paralyze a Vexarian without killing them. Might give you a chance to have a conversation." As they prepared the equipment Jack would need, an alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. "Proximity alert," one of the guards reported. "Something just entered orbit around the moon." Jack and Carter exchanged looks. The hunter had found them faster than expected. "Your plan?" Carter asked, checking her own weapon. "Spring the trap early," Jack replied. "This ends today." The secret facility shook as something heavy landed on the moon's surface. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the corridors. Captain Carter's team moved with practiced efficiency, securing doors and activating defense systems. "How did he find us so quickly?" Carter asked, checking the facility's external cameras. Jack thought for a moment. "He must have placed a second tracker on my ship, one our scanners couldn't detect." He shook his head in grudging admiration. "He's good." The camera showed a sleek black ship landing near the crater where Jack had hidden the rusty bucket. Its design was unlike any human vessel, all smooth curves and sharp angles designed to absorb rather than reflect light. "That's a Vexarian Hunter-class ship," Carter said. "Top of the line. Your friend spared no expense." "He's not my friend," Jack replied, checking the specialized rifle. "But I'm hoping to change that." Carter raised an eyebrow. "You're not planning to kill him?" "Not if I can help it. I need information first. Then maybe we can come to an understanding." "Understanding? With a Vexarian hunter?" Carter laughed without humor. "You always were an optimist, Miller." Jack smiled grimly. "Not optimism. Strategy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, and I think we might have a common enemy." On the camera, a tall figure emerged from the ship. Even at a distance, Zalthrak's presence was intimidating. 6 arms, black scales that seemed to absorb the starlight, and smooth, fluid movements that spoke of deadly precision. The Vexarian was carrying what looked like a small arsenal of weapons. "He's alone," Jack noted. "No backup." "Of course he's alone," Carter replied. "Vexarian hunters work solo. It's a matter of pride." Jack nodded. "That's what I'm counting on." He turned to Carter. "I need you and your team to evacuate. Take the emergency tunnels to the backup facility." "You want to face him alone? That's suicide, Miller." "Trust me, Captain, I know what I'm doing." Carter hesitated, then nodded sharply. "Your funeral." She handed him a small device. "Emergency beacon. If you survive this madness, activate it. We'll come find you." As Carter and her team headed for the evacuation tunnels, Jack prepared his trap. He placed small charges at strategic points throughout the facility, not to kill, but to disorient. He set up the neural disruptor to cover the main entrance and calibrated the specialized rifle. Then, he waited. Zalthrak approached the hidden facility with caution. The second tracking device he had placed on the human ship had led him here, a location that didn't appear on any official maps. Military, almost certainly. His prey had powerful friends. This made the hunt more interesting. Zalthrak had grown bored with easy targets over the centuries. Jack Miller was proving to be the most engaging prey he had tracked in decades. The entrance to the facility was well concealed, but not to Vexarian eyes. Zalthrak could see the slight temperature differences that revealed the hidden door in the crater wall. He scanned for security systems and detected several, but they were designed to stop conventional attacks, not a hunter of his skill. With 4 of his arms holding weapons and 2 free for climbing and manipulation, Zalthrak moved silently toward the entrance. His senses were fully alert, watching for any sign of ambush. The door was locked, but that was a minor inconvenience. He attached a small device to the control panel, and seconds later the door slid open. Zalthrak paused, scanning the interior corridor with multiple sensors. Something wasn't right. The facility seemed too quiet. His instincts screamed danger, but the hunt demanded he continue. Zalthrak stepped through the doorway, every muscle tense and ready. A flash of light was his only warning. Zalthrak threw himself to the side as a pulse of energy shot through the space where he had been standing. Even with his quick reflexes, the edge of the pulse caught him, sending painful tingles through his lower arms. A neural disruptor, military, grade and specifically calibrated for Vexarian physiology. His prey was better equipped than expected. "Impressive first move, human," Zalthrak called out, his voice echoing in the corridor. But predictable. No response came, but Zalthrak hadn't expected one. Jack Miller was smarter than that. The hunter moved deeper into the facility, all senses alert for the next trap. Jack watched the Vexarian's progress through the facility's internal sensors. The hunter moved with incredible grace despite his size, each step careful and deliberate. The neural disruptor had barely slowed him down. "Come on, take the bait," Jack whispered to himself. On the monitor, Zalthrak approached a junction where 3 corridors met. Jack had left obvious signs of movement leading down the left corridor, scuff marks on the floor, a dropped piece of equipment. Too obvious for a trained soldier, but Jack was counting on the hunter's pride to make him overconfident. Zalthrak paused at the junction, examining all 3 options. He looked directly at the signs Jack had left, then turned and headed down the right corridor instead. Smart. Very smart. Jack smiled. That was exactly what he had expected. He pressed a button on his remote detonator. Zalthrak heard the small explosions behind him and felt satisfaction. The human had tried to herd him into a trap, but the hunter was too experienced to fall for such simple tactics. He continued down the right corridor, moving toward what his sensors indicated was the heart of the facility. The light suddenly went out, plunging the corridor into darkness. For most species, this would be a serious problem. For a Vexarian, it was an advantage. Zalthrak's eyes adjusted instantly, his vision shifting to see heat signatures and movement. Something was wrong. There were no heat signatures ahead, yet his other sensors indicated a large room beyond the next door. The human should be there. Zalthrak approached the door cautiously. It was partially open, revealing a large command center with multiple screens and equipment. Still no heat signatures. The hunter entered the room, weapons ready. It was empty but showed signs of recent use. Screens were still active. Chairs were pushed back as if vacated in a hurry. "Looking for me?" a voice came from behind him. Zalthrak whirled around, weapons raised. Jack Miller stood in the doorway holding the specialized rifle. The human looked calm, despite facing the galaxy's deadliest hunter. "You've led me on quite a chase," Zalthrak said. "Most impressive for a human." "I'll take that as a compliment," Jack replied, "but we need to talk before one of us kills the other." Zalthrak tilted his head, a gesture of curiosity among his kind. "Talk? That's not how the hunt ends, human. This isn't a normal hunt, and I'm not normal prey." Jack lowered his weapon slightly, though not enough to leave himself defenseless. "Do you know who hired you?" "Names are not important. Only the contract matters. What if I told you the contract was part of something bigger, something that threatens your people as well as mine?" This gave Zalthrak pause. Among his kind, there was a code. The hunt must be honorable, and certain lines were not crossed. "Explain," the hunter demanded. "Galactic Consolidated Industries is developing biological weapons," Jack said. "Weapons designed to target specific species. including Vexarians. Zalthrak's eyes narrowed. You have proof of this claim? I saw the testing facility on Vega Prime. That's what I wasn't supposed to see. That's why they want me dead. The hunter considered this. It would explain the unusually high bounty for a seemingly ordinary human, and biological weapons targeting specific species were forbidden by galactic treaties. If what you say is true, Zalthrak began. He never finished the sentence. A bright flash filled the room as a high-powered energy blast hit the ceiling, sending debris crashing down between them. Through the dust and smoke, Jack saw new figures entering the room. Armed, guards in galactic consolidated uniforms. The bounty on both your heads just doubled, a cold voice announced. No witnesses, no survivors. Jack dove for cover as more energy blasts tore through the room. From the corner of his eye, he saw Zalthrak do the same, the hunter's multiple arms allowing him to return fire from behind a fallen console. Their private hunt had just become much more complicated. Now, they were both the prey. Energy blasts tore through the command center as Jack ducked behind a fallen piece of equipment. Across the room, Zalthrak returned fire with deadly precision, his 6 arms allowing him to operate multiple weapons at once. 3 Galactic Consolidated. Guards were already down, but more were pouring in through the doorway. We can't stay here, Jack shouted over the noise. They'll overwhelm us with numbers. The Vexarian hunter glanced at Jack, his alien features unreadable. For a moment, Jack thought Zalthrak might turn his weapons on him instead, finishing his original contract even in this chaos. Then the hunter nodded once, a sharp jerking motion. The secondary exit, Zalthrak called back. Behind the main console. Jack was surprised the hunter knew the facility's layout, but there was no time to question it. He tossed a smoke grenade toward the main entrance, temporarily blinding the incoming guards. In the confusion, he sprinted toward the main console where Zalthrak was already tearing away a panel to reveal a maintenance tunnel. You first, the hunter said, covering their retreat with suppressive fire. Jack hesitated only a second before crawling into the tunnel. Trust was a luxury in this situation, but his options were limited. He heard Zalthrak enter the tunnel behind him, pulling the panel back in place just as more energy blasts hit the console. The tunnel was narrow and dark, designed for maintenance robots rather than people. Jack crawled as fast as he could, guided by small emergency lights along the floor. Behind him, the Vexarian moved with surprising speed and agility despite his larger size. How did you know about this tunnel? Jack asked as they reached a junction. I studied the facility's layout before landing, Zalthrak replied. I always know my hunting grounds. Of course he did. Jack wouldn't have expected less from the galaxy's most feared hunter. Left here, Jack said, taking the lead. This should connect to the emergency evacuation route. They emerged into a wider corridor that sloped upward. Emergency lighting cast everything in a dim red glow. In the distance, they could hear shouting and the sound of boots on metal floors. They're sweeping the facility, Jack said. We need to get to my ship. Zalthrak's eyes narrowed. Your ship is likely under guard. Mine is better shielded and has superior weapons. You're suggesting we work together? Jack couldn't keep the surprise from his voice. Temporarily. Until we verify your claims about Galactic Consolidated, the hunter clarified. If you are lying, I will complete my contract. Fair enough, Jack agreed. But I'm not lying. They moved quickly through the corridors, avoiding the main pathways. Jack was impressed by how silently the Vexarian could move despite his size. Twice they had to hide as patrols passed nearby, and once they were forced to neutralize a guard who spotted them. Zalthrak used some kind of stun weapon that left the man unconscious but alive. You didn't kill him, Jack observed. Unnecessary. Deaths dishonor the hunt, Zalthrak responded simply. As they neared the surface exit, Zalthrak suddenly stopped, holding up one hand in warning, his head tilted to the side, listening. 6 guards ahead, he whispered. Heavily armed, they're setting up a perimeter. Jack checked his weapon. The specialized rifle was powerful but had limited ammunition. We need a distraction. Zalthrak reached into a pouch at his belt and removed a small spherical device. Cover your eyes when I activate this. Jack nodded, trusting the hunter's expertise. They moved forward cautiously until they could see the guards positioned around the exit. Zalthrak waited until they were close enough, then tossed the device into the center of the group. Jack closed his eyes just in time. Even with his eyes shut, Jack could sense the intense flash of light. The guards cried out in pain and confusion. When he opened his eyes again, Zalthrak was already moving, a blur of speed and lethal grace. The hunter struck with precision, not killing but incapacitating each guard with efficient blows. Jack joined the attack, using his rifle as a club when guards got too close. Within moments, all 6 guards were down, and the exit was clear. Impressive combat skills for a cargo pilot, Zalthrak noted as they stepped out onto the moon's surface. Former Marine, Jack replied. I didn't always haul cargo. The airless surface of the moon stretched before them, gray and pockmarked with craters. In the distance, Jack could see his ship surrounded by Galactic Consolidated personnel. Further, away, partially hidden in a larger crater, was Zalthrak's sleek black vessel. They moved quickly across the lunar landscape, using craters for cover. Without an atmosphere, their movement was silent, giving them an advantage over the guards who had to rely on visual contact. They reached Zalthrak's ship without incident. The vessel was unlike any Jack had seen before, organic-looking yet clearly advanced technology. The entrance opened at Zalthrak's touch, and they slipped inside. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with controls designed for a being with multiple limbs. Trophies from past hunts lined the walls, a chilling reminder that under normal circumstances Jack would have ended up as just another trophy. We need proof of your claims, Zalthrak said, taking position at the pilot station. The ship's scanners detected data storage devices in the facility. Did you secure any evidence? Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out a small data drive. Everything I saw at the Vega Prime facility, plus what Captain Carter added from military intelligence. It's all here. The hunter took the drive and inserted it into his ship's computer. As the ship lifted off, they reviewed the data together. Images of secret labs, test subjects, and biological agents appeared on the screen. Most damning were documents outlining plans for weapons that could target specific alien physiologies, including Vexarian. Zalthrak's expression darkened as he viewed the evidence. This violates the most sacred laws of the Galactic Compact. Species-specific bioweapons were banned after the Krellian Plague. Now you understand why they want me dead, Jack said, and why they're willing to pay so much for it. The ship shuddered as energy blasts struck its shields. On the viewscreen, they could see Galactic Consolidated ships rising from the moon's surface in pursuit. They're determined, Zalthrak noted, his hands moving across the controls with practiced ease. The hunter's ship accelerated, quickly outpacing their pursuers. What now? Jack asked. I can't run forever and you have a contract to consider. Zalthrak was silent for a long moment, his alien eyes unreadable. Then he turned to face Jack fully. The contract is void, the hunter declared. Galactic Consolidated broke faith by concealing the true nature of their activities. Among my people, honor demands action when such crimes are discovered. What kind of action? Jack asked. Justice, Zalthrak replied simply. But first we need allies. This evidence must reach those who can act upon it. Jack thought of Captain Carter and her connections in the military. I know some people who would be very interested in this information. As do I, Zalthrak said. The Vexarian Hunters Guild will not tolerate being targeted by such weapons, nor will they appreciate being manipulated into doing Galactic Consolidated's dirty work. For the first time since this began, Jack felt hope. So instead of hunter and prey, we are now hunting together, Zalthrak finished, and Galactic Consolidated has become the prey. The hunter's ship entered hyperspace, leaving their pursuers far behind. As the stars streaked past, Jack reflected on how quickly things had changed. The deadliest hunter in the galaxy had indeed made a mistake in targeting a human, but that mistake had led to an unlikely alliance that might save both their species. Zalthrak studied his former prey with new respect. Humans were physically unimpressive by galactic standards, but their adaptability and resourcefulness made them dangerous in ways other species often failed to recognize. It was a lesson the hunter would not forget. In all my centuries of hunting, Zalthrak said, you are the first target to become an ally. It is unprecedented. Jack smiled. That's humans for you. We're unpredictable. Indeed, the hunter agreed. Perhaps that is your greatest strength. As the ship sped toward their first destination, Jack knew the real battle was just beginning. Galactic Consolidated was powerful, with resources throughout the galaxy. But they had made one critical mistake. They had created two enemies who, separately, were formidable. Together, they just might be unstoppable.